Namaskar. Friends, welcome to Discourse number 78. In this discourse, we will learn the story of Svethakethu. This story is taken from one of the famous Upanishads known as Chandogya Upanishad. The story goes like this. Once there lived in a village a boy named Svethakethu. He was the son of the great and wise man Uddalaka. After attaining 12 years, Svethakethu was sent to a guru to learn the wisdom and knowledge. In those days, the students, the boys were sent to gurus, and these gurus lived in the forest. And these gurus were highly enlightened souls. They had the direct perception of the great ultimate reality. And they lived in the forest, contemplating and meditating. They never mingled with the public. So therefore, in those days, the boys, when they attained certain age of consciousness, were sent to these gurus in the forest. These boys would undergo vigorous training under the tutelage of these gurus. Say for 15 to 20 years. After that, when the gurus were satisfied with the students' acquisition of knowledge and wisdom, they were sent back. And these boys or students would return to their houses with the knowledge and wisdom gained from such gurus. So, Svethakethu was sent to this guru by his father Uddalaka at the age of 12. Svethakethu had learnt all that knowledge from the guru and returned to his father's house. But Svethakethu became very proud. He thought that he knew everything. So his father Uddalaka saw a great sense of pride on his son's face. And the father realized that his son Svethakethu had not learnt the pure knowledge and wisdom. So the father started teaching this young lad the real wisdom. But wisdom cannot be imparted. In those days, wisdom was given in the form of tales. And only by means of tales, the wisdom, pure knowledge was rendered. And the students were made to realize the essence of the truth. So the father realized that his son Svethakethu had learnt nothing, but he had acquired only knowledge, and this knowledge had given him a lot of pride. Therefore, Uddalaka realized that his son had learnt nothing, and he wanted to teach his son the real wisdom. And he wanted to make his son realize that what he had learnt from the Guru in the forest was not true, but it only made him proud. And therefore, Uddalaka said, "Can you hear that by which the ear cannot hear? Can you see that by which the eye cannot see? Can you know that which the mind cannot know?" Svethakethu was shocked. He was taken aback. Because for the first time, Svethakethu learned a different kind of knowledge, a different kind of teaching. So the questions posed by Uddalaka had stunned his son Svethakethu. So it was a great surprise for Svethakethu, and he saw something new in that learning. So he in turn asked his father Uddalaka to teach more about that. And Uddalaka continued. Do you know, by knowing a lump of clay, the lump is known. Do you know, by seeing a nugget of gold, everything is made of gold? Do you know, by seeing an iron of a piece of iron tongs, everything is made of iron? Oh, Svethakethu could not believe that he was learning something new from his father. He saw a great enlightened soul in his father. His father himself became a second guru for this young lad, Svethakethu. So Svethakethu in turn again asked his father Uddalaka to teach him more of that pure wisdom. Then Uddalaka continued. Uddalaka said, in the beginning, there was an ocean of consciousness, and this was pure, and it was one without second. Ekam eva dvitiyam. Oh, it was one, and this one was nothing but pure consciousness, Chit. And this pure consciousness said, I am one, may I be many. So the light was created. The light said to itself, I am one, may I be many. So the water was created. The water thought itself, I am one, may I be many. So from the water, the matter created. The matter thought to itself, I am one, may I be many. So the matter got infinite forms. So the whole universe is made up of these three elements: light, water, and matter. So the source of this creation, which is in ever expansion, is that ocean of pure consciousness. Returning to this state of pure consciousness is what is known as the self-realization. So the Uddalaka continued by saying that this individual self is the self that emanated from that big source of the state of pure consciousness. And you must return to this original state. Return to this original state is nothing but connecting yourself to this state of pure consciousness. When you connect yourself, and this connecting is what is known as union. And this union is what is known as yoga. So Svethakethu was completely enlightened by his father's wisdom. And later Svethakethu went to the court of King Janaka and became a great scholar, and he lived humbly in the court of King Janaka. But in this story, we see the young lad in two dimensions. the young lad has two aspects of personality. One is that Svethakethu goes to the forest and learns the knowledge, but that knowledge has made him very proud, egocentric. And therefore, the father realized that his son had learned nothing, had not realized the essence of this whole universe, this creation. And this young lad had not acquired the real sense of wisdom. So therefore, the wise father, Uddalaka, teaches him the pure wisdom, which is different from what Svethakethu had learned in the first phase of his schooling. And this is real. And this has enlightened Svethakethu. So in the first phase of Svethakethu's life, student life, what he had acquired was conceptual knowledge. And that conceptual knowledge was not enough. It was not real. And therefore, Uddalaka teaches this young lad the pure wisdom and tells him that what this state of pure consciousness, which is the beginning, which is the source, which is the origin. And from this source, light, water, matter emanated, and this entire creation has unfolded in infinite forms. And all these infinite forms must return to this original source. And this returning to this original source is what is known as yoga. This returning to the original source is establishing union. So Uddalaka tells the young lad that he is that, thou art that, tattvam asi, thou art that. So in the second phase of his life, the young lad Svethakethu acquires the true wisdom from his father Uddalaka. Now, this is known as yoga. But then what is happening in the contemporary world, in our life? All of us belong to the first phase of Svethakethu's life. We are more bogged down in the conceptual knowledge, and we think that is real. And therefore we are bloated with ego, with so much pride. And we live in that sense of pride. And that is not real. It is purely intellectual. And learning and that sort of knowledge is not yoga. It is one aspect of yoga, as I have already said in my previous discourses. All this intellectual knowledge, this conceptual knowledge of the world has a functional utility. And beyond that, it is nothing, and we are nothing. Therefore, but we are constantly bogged down in that conceptual knowledge, and we think that is real, and that is great, and there is nothing greater than this kind of intellectual knowledge, and we all live in that. We all live in the functional labels. We think that we are doctors, we think we are lawyers, we think we are professors. Look at how a professor lives as a professor and dies as a professor. A doctor lives as a doctor and dies as a doctor. A lawyer lives as a lawyer and dies as a lawyer. Oh, we all live in these functional labels and die in these functional labels. And we are very much wedded to these functional labels. We are deeply attached to these functional labels. Remember that as long as you are in the institution, you can carry that functional label. That functional label is only a means of identification. Beyond that, the functional label has no any utility. Once you come out of the institution, you are a human being. You are not a functional label, but we carry that functional label with us wherever we go. When we go to market, when you go to bazaar, when we go to a hotel or cinema theater or any place on this earth, we identify ourselves through those functional labels. That is the problem of a human being. And we live in those functional labels. We give too much importance to those functional labels, and we die in those functional labels. And we never go beyond those functional labels. And this is not called a real knowledge. What is required here is that you need to go beyond these functional labels. Like the young Svethakethu. Right. All of us belong to the first phase of young Svethakethu. Yes. Because in the first phase of student life, the young Svethakethu had only acquired the conceptual knowledge. And this conceptual knowledge had made him extraordinarily proud. So his father, Uddalaka, had seen this kind of sense of pride on his son's face and realized that his son had not learned anything. If one had really learned that state of pure knowledge, pure wisdom, one would not have carried that sense of pride on one's face. This is what Uddalaka had realized. Therefore, he decided to teach the real wisdom, the real knowledge to his young son, Svethakethu. So we all belong to the first phase of young Svethakethu. We must come out from this conceptual knowledge, from these functional labels, from this intellectual knowledge, and enter into the real knowledge. So unless and until we connect ourselves to that state of pure consciousness, which is the source of whole creation, our life becomes meaningless. Our existence becomes insignificant. Our living carries no meaning at all. Therefore, a constant sadhana is required. This sadhana would only make you connect yourself with that state, and then you become thou art that tvam asi. And this is called yoga. Namaskar.